Hi, I'm Jasmine, and welcome to Jasmine Hypnotherapy. On this channel, I talk about hypnosis, subconscious patterns, and how the mind creates change. In this episode, I want to talk about something I think a lot of people experience: the way the mind can cancel an idea before it ever had a chance to breathe. Have you ever had an idea pop into your mind or felt a sudden burst of inspiration out of nowhere for a second, and something actually felt possible? Maybe it was something big, like starting something new or changing something significant in your life, creating something or just general creativity, learning something, putting yourself out there, or trying a different direction. Or maybe it was something small. Maybe you just had a quick thought like, I should try that. And then almost immediately, your mind started talking you out of it. It started filling in all the reasons why it probably would never work out for you. Maybe the timing is wrong. Maybe you don't know enough yet. Maybe people won't understand. Or maybe it's a waste of time. Maybe you'll never be able to finish it. And before the idea has ever had a chance to breathe, your mind has already built a whole case against it. It's almost like you process of elimination your way out of the idea before you've ever given it a real chance. You rule it out piece by piece, not because you fully thought it through, but because your mind has already started listing all the reasons it might not work out for you. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. Because sometimes people think they don't have ideas or dreams or life direction, but that's not actually usually the whole story. Sometimes the issue is that the idea comes up and the mind cancels it so quickly that you barely had a chance to recognize it as a real possibility. And I think this connects to hypnosis because hypnosis isn't only about getting relaxed. A lot of what we work with in hypnosis is the way your mind responds before you've fully talked yourself through something. So you may have an idea, and logically, part of you may want to explore it, but another part of your mind reacts first. It may go straight to, I don't know about that. And because that reaction can happen so quickly, you may not even recognize it as fear. You may just think, never mind, that probably wouldn't work out for me anyway. And then you move on before you've really questioned where that response ever came from. Let's be clear. I'm not saying every idea needs to become something. Not every thought needs to turn into a plan. And not every opportunity is the right opportunity for you. Sometimes the answer really is no. Sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes the idea needs to change a bit or be rearranged before it becomes something you can actually work with. So, this isn't about chasing every idea that comes to your mind, but I do think there's a difference between making grounded decision and making something shut down, like shutting it down because uncertainty feels so uncomfortable in the moment. And that difference matters because a lot of the time, people aren't just thinking things through, they're reacting to fear and calling it logic. They're reacting to discomfort and calling it a sign. Or they're reacting to uncertainty and treating it like danger. And when that happens over and over and over again, it can keep you from participating in your own life. Often, when an idea first comes up, the mind tries to judge it from the version that exists right now. So you might think, how would I ever even do all of that? But you're asking that question from where you are today. And you're asking it with the confidence that you have today, the information that you have today, the energy that you have today, and maybe even the fear that you have today. It's so interesting. It makes me think about when you enroll in school or a program or a class, you don't know what is going to be on the curriculum before you enroll. I mean, sometimes you can look and see you don't have the syllabus, you can see a general course description, but you don't know how much work it's actually going to be, the physical load and things of that nature. But you know what? You register because you have faith that you'll be guided and that whatever establishment that's facilitating that course or that program or that degree, degree track, you have faith that they are going to guide you through and they'll show you how to make it work because other people have done it too, right? It's interesting when we have brand new ideas in our mind, we don't have that facilitator to show us the way and hand us the syllabus. We kind of have to do the work ourselves to figure that out. And sometimes that can be a daunting task, but the same way that you're in class, one day at a time, one assignment at a time, one raising your hand and one question at a time, actually, uh, you can look at your own ideas that way too. Just something, just a thought there that came to my mind. So when I say the energy that you have today, um, and maybe even the fear you have today, hypnosis slows down all of that and gives you a chance to write out your syllabus. So let's keep talking. I just had that, and I just had to share that analogy because I thought it might bring up a light bulb in one person out there. So, from that place or course of an idea, it might feel too big, as I was mentioning. As of course, it might feel overwhelming, it might feel unrealistic. And because you're trying to answer the future questions the mind might have right now. But the truth is, by the time you get to some future part of the idea, you may not even be in the exact place that you are right now. You may know more. You may have more experience. The idea may have changed shape, or you may realize that the first version of the idea was never the final version anyway. And that's still kind of like school because as you go through each part of the lesson, you know more than you did before, and all of a sudden you're able to think about even taking that final exam, right? A lot of times the mind wants certainty before we even decide to make any movement. And unless somebody's there to handhold us, sometimes all of our bright ideas and inspiration can feel overwhelming without that guidance. But a lot of times when you actually start the process, one step at a time will get you to a place you never imagined you can go. But the mind wants to know the whole path before taking that first step. And it wants to know exactly how everything will work before it even lets you explore that possibility. And I think if you compare that to that school syllabus or that course you're taking, it tells you each phase of the class or the course or the degree program, how long it's going to take. And when you have your own idea, you don't have that. You have to create that. And again, sometimes we process of elimination our way out of that process because nobody laid it out for us in a lot of cases. And it can get exhausting because instead of just asking, what's the next reasonable step? Your mind tries to figure it out, the entire future, all at once. And it's like that idea comes in, and before you've ever had a chance to really sit with it, your mind is already saying, this will cost too much money, or this will probably take too long to complete, or I won't be successful, or folks will think I'm nuts. What will they say, right? And after a while, the idea starts to feel bigger and heavier than it actually is. It's not just an idea anymore. Now it feels like this whole future you're supposed to have figured out before you even begin. And that's where a lot of people shut down. They're not even tired from doing the one thing. They're tired from trying to mentally live out every possible version of the thing before anything has ever actually happened. And this is where hypnosis becomes relevant because so much of this is happening in your imagination. Your mind may be imagining, picturing, visualizing, or even just pretending that something has already gone wrong before anything has actually happened. You might be imagining the conversation where someone doesn't understand you, or the moment where you feel embarrassed, or the outcome where you try it and you try that something and it doesn't work out. And even though none of that has happened, and it hasn't happened yet, your body may still respond to it like it's real. You might notice your chest getting tight, your stomach turning, or just plain old overwhelm and fatigue. You may think this is too much, even though you haven't actually done anything yet. You're responding to the mental movie that you created. And this is something hypnosis helps us understand because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when someone says, I just don't think I can do that, sometimes they're not really responding to the next step in front of them in that moment. They're responding to the version of the future they've already imagined where everything goes wrong. And because that imagined future feels so convincing, they stop before they've ever gotten any real evidence. Hypnosis helps you to slow that whole thing down by giving your mind a chance to pause before it automatically runs with the fear. Because when you're in that calmer, more focused state, you're not just reacting as quickly to the first scary thought that shows up. There's a little more room to notice what your mind is doing. You might notice, oh, I'm not actually dealing with the real situation yet. I'm imagining the worst possible outcome, worst case scenario version of it. Or you might notice, I'm already talking myself out of this before I've ever even looked or even taken the first step. And that space matters because the first fear isn't always the truth. The first reaction isn't always the full picture. And the first thought isn't always the final answer. Sometimes it's just the protective part of the mind speaking first. And I want to say this part very clearly. Protection isn't bad. Your mind isn't the enemy. A lot of the time, your mind is trying to keep you from feeling something painful. It doesn't want you to fail. It doesn't want you to feel embarrassed. It doesn't want you to be judged or get excited about something and then feel disappointed later. For example, this can show up with something as simple and emotional as loving a pet. Someone may love their dog deeply, but after losing one and feeling that kind of grief, they may decide, I'm never getting another dog again. And it's because they don't want to feel that pain and loss again. And on one level, that makes sense because the mind remembers the pain. The mind even remembers emotions, even clearer than the actual memory itself. It remembers how much it hurt to lose something so loved. So it tries to protect the person by saying, don't open that door again. Don't put yourself in the position to feel that kind of loss again. So the mind says, don't even try. Don't even try it. And in the moment, that can feel safer because if you don't try, you don't have to fail. If you don't start, nobody can judge what you created. And if you don't let yourself love something again, you don't have to face the possibility of losing it. But over time, that kind of protection can start to limit your life because now you're not just avoiding pain, you may be also avoiding the connection, the experience, the growth, and the joy or the version of yourself that might have developed had you allowed yourself to stay open. And this is the part that can be frustrating because a lot of people are waiting to feel confident before they begin. They think, when I feel ready, then I'll do it. But sometimes confidence doesn't come first. Usually it doesn't come first. That's rare, actually. Sometimes confidence comes after you participate a little, after you try one small part of that thing, take the first step, learn a little something about it, and you realize what you do and don't like about that thing. And then you adjust. You get more information. And then the idea starts to feel a little less mysterious because now you're not just thinking about it from outside, you're actually engaging with it. But if your mind demands confidence before you've ever even had any experience, you can get stuck waiting to feel ready and certain, and waiting until you know enough, waiting for that fear to go away or the whole path to become 100% crystal clear. And the problem is, life doesn't always give you that kind of certainty before you begin. It's one thing to enroll in a class, it's another thing to have a brand new idea for yourself. Sometimes clarity comes after you engage with the thing just a little bit, not before. Now, this doesn't mean you throw your planning out the window. That's not what I'm saying. I'm a big believer in thoughtful planning. Planning matters, timing matters, resources and discernment, they all matter. But thoughtful planning and fear looping are not the same thing. Thoughtful planning helps you figure out what's actually needed. It helps you ask, what's the next step? Or what do I need to understand before I can move forward with this? Or what would make this feel more manageable for me in the moment? Fear looping is different, completely different. Fear looping keeps you bringing you back to the same worry without helping you move forward at all. It's when your mind keeps going over the same questions again and again and again. It's kind of like you're drilling yourself, which is also not always being kind to yourself, too, I might add. And instead of getting clearer, you just feel more drained. And sometimes people think they're being responsible because they're thinking so much. They're thinking it through. But there's a difference between thinking something through and circling over the same fear in a loop over and over again on repeat. Planning helps you prepare for reality. Fear looping keeps you trapped in an imagined version of what could go wrong. And this is one of the reasons hypnosis can be helpful. In hypnosis, you're not just sitting there trying to force yourself to think positively. The objective is to get the mind into a calmer, more focused state where you can start noticing the automatic responses instead of immediately becoming them. So instead of the idea popping up and your mind instantly saying, nope, 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 that won't work. I'm not doing that. Hypnosis gives you a little more room to pause and look at what's actually happening. You may start to notice, wait a minute, I'm not reacting to the actual idea. I'm reacting to what I'm afraid might happen if I explore that idea. And that's a very different thing because once you notice the fear response, you have more choice. You can still be thoughtful and cautious and decide something isn't right for you. But now the decision doesn't have to come from first automatic reactions. It can come from a clear place, a much clearer place, a place where the idea actually gets a chance to be considered before it gets canceled. And sometimes that's the shift. Not forcing yourself to jump into something or pretending you're ready when you're not. Just allowing the idea to exist long enough for you to understand it. Sometimes the mind treats every idea like it's asking for a life commitment. An idea comes up, and the mind acts like you have to decide right now whether you're going to do the whole thing, fund the whole thing, explain it to everybody, finish it perfectly, and know exactly how it's all going to turn out. But that's usually just not how ideas work. Sometimes an idea just needs a little room. You can let it sit there for a while. You can be curious about it. You can ask, what would the smallest version of this look like? You can ask, is there one piece of this that I can explore? You don't have to turn every idea into a major life decision the second it shows up. And you don't have to cancel it just because you don't know yet. Sometimes I don't know yet is enough. It doesn't have to become an instant no. And I want to be careful here because this isn't about pushing past every signal or ignoring your own instincts or intuition. There is advice out there that says if something isn't an absolute resounding yes, then it is a no. I've heard a couple of famous, successful people say. And I don't think that there are times when that's useful. Sometimes no is really no. Sometimes something feels kind of off or the timing isn't right. Sometimes you don't have the support, the energy, or the information you need yet. And that's okay. And sometimes the idea really isn't for you. But I also think there's a difference between something not being a true yes in your mind and saying no so quickly that you never gave the idea a chance. Sometimes no is clarity, and sometimes no is fear, speaking first. That's the part that I think is worth paying attention to. If the no feels calm and clear, that may be useful information. But if the no feels rushed, tensed, panicked, repetitive, or full of worst case scenarios, that may be something different. And that may be your sign to give it a little breathing room. That may be the mind trying to protect you before you've even had a chance to understand what the idea really is. A question I think is helpful here is, am I planning or am I trying to make uncertainty disappear? Those are two very different things. Planning can help you understand what you need to think through and the timing and resources and support or next steps. But trying to make uncertainty disappear can keep you stuck. You keep looking for the thing that will make you feel completely sure before you begin. A full answer or a guarantee, or maybe to know how everything is going to turn out before you even take the first step. And the problem is, life doesn't usually work that way. Sometimes you just get enough information to take the very next step, and that's it until you take that next step. And this is where hypnosis can be the supporting or the support system for the process itself. It can help you slow down the automatic reactions long enough to notice what's happening. Instead of the mind immediately going into, that won't work, or I can't do that, or this is way too much for me. Hypnosis gives you a chance to work with the response differently. You may be able to notice where the fear is coming from, the source. You may be able to separate the actual idea from the imagined worst case scenario. And you may be able to create a little more space between the first reaction and the decision you make next. That doesn't mean every idea becomes something, as I've said. It means the idea gets a fairer chance to be understood before the mind shuts it down. So, if there's one thing I want you to pay attention to, it's the speed of your response. When an idea comes up, notice how quickly your mind starts making a case against it. Does it give you space to think, or does it immediately start explaining why the idea won't work? Does it help you understand the idea, or does it make the whole thing feel way too big before you've even taken one step? And again, this doesn't mean every idea needs to become something. It just means you may want to notice whether your mind is helping you make a grounded decision or whether it's canceling the idea before you ever really had a chance to consider it. Sometimes that small pause is important. It gives you a chance to ask, is this really a no, or is this fear speaking first? And if you notice that this happens for you, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It may just mean that your mind has learned to protect itself by shutting things down quickly. But something that protection can become so automatic that sometimes when that protection can become so automatic that it starts limiting what you allow yourself to explore, it doesn't become helpful. And the next time an idea comes up, maybe the first step is to turn it into it isn't to turn it into a full plan right away. Maybe the first step is to just notice how your mind responds to it. Does it give the idea room, or does it immediately start building the case against it? Does it help you think clearly, or does it make you feel you have to solve the whole future before you begin? That's where awareness can be useful. Because once you notice the pattern, you have more choice on how to respond to it, which is a good thing. And sometimes that's where change begins. If you're interested in learning more about hypnosis, subconscious patterns, and how the mind creates change, please consider subscribing to this channel. I share weekly hypnosis education for people who are curious about how the mind works how subconscious patterns form, and how hypnosis can support change. And if this topic feels familiar to you and you're interested in exploring hypnotherapy support, you can find the link to schedule a session in the description below.